Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to mix and master your track for the club and to just really optimize it. I get a lot of questions about mixing in with these videos and just sort of ideas on how to do it and how to really optimize your track for the club. How to make a techno or a house track, or really whichever genre of dance music you're trying to make into just like a strong banger that's going to work and is going to be really fat in the club and at home as well. And so we're going to be talking about how to do that and how to really make that work today. Now, to go along with this video, I just dropped a new mastering rack on my Bandcamp. So what this is Julian Earl's Definitive Mastering Rack V2. I'm going to be using this in this video today to explain everything. So if you want to follow along, the link to the mastering rack is at the top of the description. It's just $5, and this is really the best Ableton mastering resource I've seen yet. I made it based on just like what is going to work best and simplest to make the cleanest and most powerful end result with the master. And you're going to be hearing that in the video today. But if you guys want to support me, definitely go check out that link at the top. Again, it's only $5, and this will definitely take your track to the next level. And let's get started. So, to illustrate everything today, I have this little track here in front of me I'm working on right now. Here's what it sounds like. It's completely unmixed, unmastered. Here's what it sounds like. It's kind of loud also, 'cause it's clipping right now. So as you can hear, it's a pretty cool track. There's also it's a nice track, it's a solid idea, but the mixing is holding it back. If it was mixed properly, you'd be able to hear each individual sound, and on top of that, you would also just, get a better idea of the track when you hear it. Overall, the whole track is just going to sound clearer and easier to hear if it's well mixed. So you can see we have all the different elements here. They're all playing. It's a pretty good amount of stuff. I think the first thing that I want to say, though, before I say anything about the actual mixing, is it really comes down to composition. Composition being one, having just like a high quality sound that sounds good already and doesn't need a whole lot of stuff. And two, just kind of like how everything fits together. Keep in mind here, like, for example, we have this big lead bass synth thing. This is taking up a lot of the frequency spectrum, so we're not going to have like a lead synth on top of this. Like, we could make a melody on top of this, or probably do 1,000,001 different things, but we're not going to do that because we want this to really be the main focus. And that's really that's important. You need to make sure that the track is set up in a way where you're not setting yourself up for failure. It's already going to just kind of fall into place because of the actual theory behind composing it, and not just hoping that you're going to save everything in the mixing and mastering stage. Because if you think that, you're not. Usually, again, it's not really going to sound right when it's mixed unless it's already just like a well put together track. And that extends to everything too. Like this kick, for example. It has a bit of drum bus on it, but you can hear this is just one that I've made by layering some kicks together. And it's like, the kick already has the punch and the fatness and stuff. So anything extra that we do is going to help make it bigger and fatter, but it's already a strong sound, so that's going to make a huge difference. So the first thing I would do to go about mixing this track is actually just start grouping all the sort of similar elements together. And what I mean by this is, so obviously you can hear, there's like similar things in here. Like we have all of our cymbals, and then we have all the low end. So those are usually the groups I would start with. And what you can do is then once you get these in the groups, we're going to fix the clipping. So we can just go and we'll select everything inside of the group and just turn it all down until now it's not clipping anymore. And then we'll do the same thing with all the cymbals. But the clipping, that's another thing. If you have clipping going on in your tracks, you definitely want to make sure that you get rid of that as soon as possible, because, if you listen to this, if we take these back up to how we just had them a second ago. There's a lot of stuff happening here. that you just can't even hear when it's clipping. It's like, you know, if you have clipping in your track, you're not really going to be able to hear stuff properly. So that's definitely something you want to try to fix as soon as possible. So then we can just take all these cymbals. I guess I got the little effects in there too. We'll take that out. And same deal. So those aren't clipping. So we're good. And then now we'll just listen to the whole track together. And we're going to just make sure the master isn't clipping. And a quick tip for this, actually, that I use this in literally every single project file ever. What you do is you can just select one of your tracks, or like if you want to select all the tracks at once, you can select one of the tracks or one of the groups here, and then you just hit Control or Command if you're on a Mac, and A. And then now you've selected everything, and then what you can do is just turn it all down, or turn one of them down, and now all the volumes of everything is getting turned down, and this way we can bring it down. You know, typically before mastering, you want to be at about between -3 and -6. So this is good for now because we're going to do some stuff that's going to make this a bit louder. So once we've got everything kind of grouped nicely, because we're going to do processing on the groups. This isn't just for project file organization. The groups are actually for the sake of being able to do processing on the groups. Once we have these groups grouped and there's no clipping and the balance is pretty right between all of these in terms of the low end and the hi-hats, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go in and just kind of make sure there isn't anything that's like in the background, so to speak. So what I mean by this, obviously you're going to have background elements, but if you listen, like a really good example of it right now would be this ride. Like the ride's in there adding a lot to the track. You can't even hear it that well. You're just kind of hearing a little bit of high end. So like that would be one I would just go in and turn up. You know, turn up those main hi-hats a little bit. And then there's like another thing that this is happening with, are like these little toms here. So I'll just take those and turn those up a bit. Because the thing is like, you know, you really just want to make sure that it's all like even, like that you can hear everything. Because if you're just going to have an element in there and not be able to hear it, you know, what's the point of having that element? If that's the case, you might as well just delete it. Because it's just going to make more mud in your mix. But cool, so that's there. And then the next thing I like to do is a little bit of group processing on the group. So now that we have everything playing pretty evenly in the mix and at the level we want it to be, then we can take this and like we'll take this group and we'll put a bit of saturation on it. And typically I'll use a bit of saturation on the low end. I used to use drum bus a little bit. I like saturation, just kind of like clean, more straightforward saturation without like the extra stuff and without the coloring when you're working with the low end, because you really just need a little push. You don't really want to like, you know, be adding all this like crazy coloring and little tiny bits of compression and stuff like that. You really just want like a little bit of saturation to add some harmonics and then you're good. So we're just going to take this. I usually put it about like -6 or +6. So there's about that. And with it, you can hear it's two things. It's one, obviously, you know, everything is a bit louder and a bit fatter. It kind of sounds like you just went through and made everything fatter on its own, but obviously it's just happening because you're doing this grouping. But also what it does is it does a bit of glue sort of in between the different elements. It happens especially with the low end. Like you can really hear it there with the kick and the bass. Basically what's happening here is saturation adds on, oh, I should turn it down a little bit. Saturation, essentially what that's doing, what creates like the saturated or like the distorted sound that you know, is harmonic content. It's just adding harmonic content on top of the harmonics that are already present in your sounds. And so this is essentially, if you think of like those little individual harmonics that are getting added by the saturator, that's the glue, because the kick has harmonics in its certain area and the bass has its harmonics in its certain area in the mix. And, you know, they don't really stray too far, but then once you start adding these harmonics on top at the same time with the saturator, you are, starting to add things like, maybe, like, for example, the bass is happening usually lower than the kick, at least the sub bass is. So, like, you're adding some stuff on top of the sub bass that's then going to get to where the harmonics are on the kick. And yeah, that's probably the most, like, simple way I can break it down scientifically, is that the glue here is, like, the extra harmonics that are being added in between the sounds. So then once we have the low end, I like to just make sure the volume's right, because sometimes that can make it a bit bigger. And then we'll take all these cymbals too. And I'll usually do like a bit of drum bus on here. And a good tip with these, so the thing is, you definitely want to try to fatten your hi-hats up as much as you can, because like, you need those to be as strong as the kick. Where obviously, they're not going to be punchy in the same way the kick is punchy necessarily, but it's like, boosh, boosh. The kick and the hi-hats are very even there, and that's what you need. So that's what this helps with. And a good technique with these is to actually do a bit of a high-pass filter before the drum bus or before your saturation. And the reason why is, if you listen, you can hear that little, like, thing that happens. If I low-pass this, you'll really notice it. You hear how there's, like, that. So what we can do is we can actually just take this high-pass filter and just kind of smooth that out a little bit, and then you add another one afterwards. And then there we go. We go from this to this. And the idea here is essentially, the way saturation works is it's however much signal you put into it is how much saturation and distortion or overdrive or whatever it is you're going to get. So the idea here is that we're essentially just turning down the volume of the low frequencies with this high pass filter. Like, that's all a filter is. It's just a volume knob that you can control the frequency of. And so we're just cutting out the volume of those frequencies going into the drum bus, so then it's going to make it a lot cleaner. So then from here, now we have like most of the mixing done. We've got our main elements sounding pretty good. Assuming like maybe you would have another synth lead or something over top of this, you could go in and get that leveled out, maybe saturate that a little bit more here. Which I have this one over here, so I'll just copy that and put it into here. Turn that up a little bit. And we'll make sure the effects are good too. You definitely want to go through, like when you're at the end of mixing your track, go through, like if you have, like I usually keep all my effects along the bottom. So like we have like this, we have like this little tonal effect. This is like a piano sound or something. I usually just keep those along the bottom. So then at the end you can just go through. See how that got kind of like really quiet when we were doing all that mixing with the other elements? You just go and make sure everything is good there. And there we go. So now the last step before the mastering is we're going to just select everything again. I like to do this in session view. And we're going to just turn it all down a bit. Because see how right now the track's peaking about minus 1.59. And we want to be around, like I said, between minus 3 and minus 6. So we'll just take that and turn it down a bunch. And there we go, we're pretty good at about minus 4.5. So yeah, again, that tip of like just turning everything down at once works really well. And then the last thing would be to do the mastering. So I'm going to use the mastering rack for this. Once again, the link to this is at the top of the description. So here it is. And essentially, I'll explain kind of what's going on here. So the first step I would usually do with mastering would be, one, maybe add a little bit of width. Like you can add a little bit, like if you just kind of turn this up a little. There's without it. And then with it. Now again, we're talking about mixing and mastering this for the club, so we're not going to do too much crazy widening stuff. But this is essentially, all this is doing inside of this rack is, well, it's not all it's doing, but it's just doing a bit of widening like the high end. Typically what you would want to do is kind of spread out your high end a little bit more. Like the way the stereo field works is kind of like, it's kind of like a funnel or like a triangle like this, where it's like you have the higher your sounds are, the more wide you want them to be, and the more wide they can be in the mix. And then the lower your sounds are, not in terms of volume, but in terms of like frequency spectrum. So like the kick and bass, for example, you want the lower things to be a lot more mono. So this is just adding a bit of width on the highs and the mid-range. So we're not messing up the low end with this. You definitely want to make sure of that you don't mess up the low end. But yeah, then we'll just get usually a bit of EQ, so just kind of like something to boost the low end a little bit and something to boost the sort of like sizzly highs, because these tend to be the two most important ranges. Like if you hear a track and you really analyze it, especially like techno and house and stuff, and just like club music in general, it's really like the low end is going to be the biggest thing, because obviously, you know, you want that thumping bass, and then the sizzle sort of like high end, like that frequencies, the really bright high end, it's going to be boosted a bit as well, because that is typically just sort of like where a lot of the clarity and the energy in the track is happening. So this just kind of does it here for you. So you can just take these. I usually do about that much. But you can hear what those do. You know, it really adds like a nice kind of like low end boost there. And high end boost, and it just kind of makes the track a bit sharper. Then there's this fat knob. So this is actually just saturation. So what you can do here is, this is like a more complex saturation, but you can also just drop in Ableton Saturator and just work with it that way. But usually I'll just add a bit of this. Again, same idea as like saturating the groups, just kind of ties it all together at once. You'll really hear the difference with this. So there's without it. And then with it. So yeah, it really makes the track, you know, full sounding, and like it really helps to just bring it to life. And then we have this balance, so we're going to do a bit of compression here. And typically, you don't want to do too much compression on your master. Again, this is a little bit of a more complex compression. The idea here is that you want to turn up the attack, because the attack is basically how long it takes for the compressor to kick in. So if you have it kind of like a little bit longer, you can keep it so it's not going to mess up the transients. It'll sort of like fade into the sound a little bit, and this way, again, you're compressing the body of your sound without compressing your transients. So then what we'll do here is, I'll just turn up the knob a little bit, but this just kind of helps to balance the mix out a little. You can hear like some of the things that are more in the background come more to the front, I guess is the best way to say it, when you use this. And then this push here, so this is the last step, is just to turn the gain up, because we need to get this up to the level of a professional release. So what we're going to do is we're going to just turn this push knob up, and usually you would do this with a limiter. Now, as you can see, we're not already clipping. It's well below 0 dB, so we're totally fine. But then what the limiter is going to do is it's just going to give us a way to actually boost it technically past 0 dB, but then it's going to just make the track really big and fat. So here is, I'll just show you. Here's what you do. And you'll notice if you start doing too much, you know, that's 10 dB. You can do that with some tracks. This track obviously has a lot of just like really beefy mid-range and low end, so I probably wouldn't do that much with this track. But essentially, yeah, just like if we're just using our limiter here, like you would maybe want to go up to like that far. I would say like 9 to 10 dB is like the most you would want to do, and it depends on the genre too. Like if I'm mixing like a deep minimal house track, I'm usually gonna do like 6 or 7 dB of gain, or even like 5 or 4. But in the case of a techno track, you want it to hit a bit harder, so, and especially like hard techno, you can do even more. So I'd maybe do this one around like 8. And I'm sure there's gonna be people that think that's like way too much, but again, like if you really take your time and look at the professional releases, this is what they're doing. Like this is how you get that just full loudness where everything's really tight and fast. And it also creates some synergy in the track as well, you know, because everything is going through the same processing that's affecting it all at once. And yeah, then here I have this test mono. So this is something really good to do as well, is check your track in mono, because club systems are in mono typically. So if you have a track that's only going to sound good in the stereo, it's not going to sound that good in the club, and you're going to wonder why nobody wants to play it. So we'll just turn that up. And we can hear our track still works in mono. You know, the main stuff already is just kind of in mono. Like the hi-hats aren't really doing too much stereo stuff, save for like some reverb. You know, even this lead is not really doing too much stereo stuff. I think it's just got like, yeah, see, it doesn't even have unison. We just have like some hyperdimension on there. So it's really like, you know, it's designed to work well in mono. And this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning too, is like, you know, you save yourself a lot of headache if you just go in from the start with the idea of like, okay, this track is gonna work in mono. Like, if you go in and you try to do all this crazy stereo stuff and then cut it down later, it's not gonna work that well. But if you're just working on making a great track from the start that's meant to work in mono, you know, there you go. That's the secret. And the final thing I have here, and this would probably be the final step to like mastering a track, and this can go really well, especially when you're using so much saturation and stuff throughout your mix, is actually to do a little bit of a mud cutting. So what I mean by this, I'll show you on an EQ here, would be to go, so kind of like the muddiest frequency range would be around like 200 to 300 hertz. Like, there's a lot of good stuff in there, don't get me wrong, but like if you just think like 250 hertz, that's probably like the definition of what you would think of like a boxy, like kind of muddy sound. We've all heard it before, and we've all had the problem of dealing with them before too. And so what I like to do a lot of times is just go in, and I'll usually cut right at about 250 hertz. Like, I think inside of this rack it's around there. It might be a little bit more specified. But then what's happening here is we just do a little cut right around there. And then we can just take this gain, and I'll just literally do like no more than minus 6 dB, like any lower than that, and it's just going to mess your track up. But that's what this cutout mud knob is doing, and we can just take this and kind of cut some mud out of the mix, and I'll do it in action so you can hear it. So you hear what I'm talking about. You know, when we turn this on, it just sounds a lot clearer. It gets rid of that kind of like muddy frequency range that you don't want. And so yeah, that's why I really like using that. You know, it's just a nice tip because you're not doing too much, but it's doing it on everything at once. So it's like, if you were having this problem with like the overall track, kind of once everything comes together, it's muddy, it's a really easy way, and probably the best way, in my opinion, to get rid of that kind of like mud and just keep everything super clear and clean. And yeah, so that is gonna be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get my brand new Definitive Mastering Rack Volume 2 right at the top of the description on my Bandcamp. It's just $5. Once again, this is a great way to support me, guys, and you get this great mastering rack like I just showed you. Again, here's before the mastering rack, and then with it. So you can hear what's possible. You know, this can really make your track sound huge, and it can work really well. So just kind of be your one-stop shop to master your tracks and get them working really well. You know, if you want to make like a nice master for the club just to be able to test the track or something, this is like the ideal Ableton rack for that. So again, link is at the top of the description. This really supports me. If you guys enjoy all these videos, definitely consider picking that up. And yeah, thank you so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.